We're at a point in live arena where pretty much everybody's first, or at the very least second pick for their team is going to be Sun Wukong. And I really don't mind that. I have crafted some strategies to go against this guy and beat him fairly easily, really regardless of if he is support or built as a nuke. Unfortunately, I haven't done live in arena in a little bit here, so I can't show you, but right now I have about a 50% win rate against him. I know, 50% isn't the best. My overall win rate is at about a 60%, which definitely is kind of on par with some of the lower end top players that you'd see here. Granted, I just have not put, 6,000 points worth in. I don't know, here we go, battles, 893. Some of these people are doing like 4,300 battles. That's absolutely crazy. But anyways, Sun Wukong, what makes him so annoying for some people to go against? A1 attacks one enemy, has a 35, basically a 50% chance of placing a stun for one turn. The chance is going to increase to 75% if the target has any buffs. A2 attacks one enemy, ignoring defense. He's placing a sheep if they're not dead. And then if he kills them, he's basically going to nuke the rest of your team with surplus damage. A3, he is going to steal all buffs and then placing a block buffs for an incredibly annoying champion to play against. And if that wasn't bad enough, he also revives himself with 100% HP and 100% turn meter 3 turns after they were killed. And then he has an ally speed in arena battle by 30% almost as well. So he's bringing one of the best auras in the game. He's bringing really good base stats with good speed. He's bringing in an annoying kit to go against, and he can revive himself. So as you can see, everybody loves him for everywhere in the game, and not only that, everybody has him. So really, regardless of what stage of the game you're playing at, if you're, in Bronze 1, or if you're all the way up here in Gold 4, people are going to be picking Sun Wukong. So let's go over how to beat him. The first and probably most effective way I want to talk about beating him is going to be block revive. So block revive coming in on somebody like a Foley, which is on his A3 here. So anybody he kills with this skill cannot be revived. If you want a more free-to-play option, you could come over here to, I want to say, Sacred Order. Phoenix on his A1, placing an extra hit if they have any debuffs. Enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. You come back down here to Dark Elves as well. You have somebody like Ava. She can actually place a block revive on her A2 as well. She's not a very good champion, though. I don't really think anybody's going to be using her. Block revive is probably the most effective way to deal with Sun Wukong, no questions asked, just because there is, I think, 2 champions in the game, Lydia being one, where they can actually ignore the block revive, so that's her skill here, passive, but you don't really see Lydia in the higher ends of live arena. At least I haven't, and I'm sitting in Gold 1 live arena. And then I think there's one other champion that can actually play around with block revive as well. It might be Gamaran here. I don't know if he can ignore it or not. Whole lot of reading on his kit. Don't really care. Doesn't matter. Block revive is probably the best way to deal with Sun Wukong. Once you put him down, he's not going to be getting revived. If they have a Duchess or something like that, she's not going to be able to revive him either. Best way to deal with him by far. The second way to deal with Sun Wukong is actually going to be with a block passives champion. So a good example of this would be Rhonda, since almost everybody's going to have her. On her A2, she's placing the block passives for 2 turns before attacking, and it cannot be resisted. So as long as you're able to target Wukong and he's not under, a veil or something like that, you'll be perfectly good to go. Another champion that comes to mind is going to be somebody like Ramontu, where he's stripping, placing the block passives on champions that have passives. Why is block passive so good? If block passives goes on before Sun Wukong dies, this passive is not going to activate, so he's not going to revive himself, and it will come down to the other champions to revive him, which is very, very strong actually, because when you have masteries that decrease, or not masteries, when you have blessings, and we'll get into this, that decrease their max HP, it's very strong to make them have to revive. Third best way is actually going to be the blessing I was talking about. So that is going to be, and I forgot the name of the blessing, but this one right here. So it's going to be Life Harvest. So this is basically just decreasing their max HP by a certain percentage each time they're revived. And I think it maxes out at like 60% or something crazy like that. Why this is so good is because a lot of times when people are running a Sun Wukong, they're going to pair him with like a Duchess or a UDK or a Necrit or some sort of a protection, because Sun Wukong is very, very squishy on his own because he's an attack-based damage dealer. So if you're decreasing his max HP and you have even a champion that can do light AoE attacks, so not necessarily a nuke or something like that, but if you decrease his max HP enough and you're coming in with a Lady Mikage with her AoE, it's very likely that she's going to be able to kill him. There's a lot of times where I'm actually able to effectively put down a champion and keep them out of the fight with my support heroes just doing the AoE. So another example would be somebody like a Mithrala. She's coming in on her AoE sometimes, and that has been enough to definitely kill champions with their max HP decreased so much. Obviously, this is not going to work if you're going against somebody like me, who's going to be running a Marichka, because Marichka can, of course, restore all of that decreased max HP. I don't think there's many other champions in the game that can do that, though. So again, decreasing that max HP is a really, really good way to deal with Sun Wukong. Definitely not as good as some of the other methods we've talked about, though. So I'd put this one down in kind of like the desperation tier as opposed to something that's a little bit more feasible. It's nice to have, but it's not going to win the fight on its own, if that makes sense. Another way that you can definitely deal with this champion is going to be this guy right over here, which is Ultimate Death Knight. Usually what ends up happening these days in my live arena matches is if the enemy goes first and they make a pick, it's going to be Sun Wukong, and then I make a pick, it's going to be UDK and Harima. And then if I'm picking first, it's UDK first. Like, UDK is so strong. I bet his pick rate is over 50% in Gold 4. You can check it on the Hell Hades website. I don't know the exact number, but his passive is going to make it here. So whenever an ally is attacked, there's a 100% chance of completely blocking one hit. And why that's so strong, excuse me, is because 2 of the 3 skills of Sun Wukong are one hit. So you have the A1, which is a single target, and you have the A2, which is a single target. The only thing you have to worry about at that point is going to be his A3. So having UDK in the team definitely makes him a very, very good ban candidate at the very least, so you can bring in some other options to deal with Sun Wukong, or possibly bring in another champion that might get banned otherwise. So generally, and I'm not a pay-to-win player by any means. I've played this game for probably near 4 years at this point. I've spent about $500 in total. I've been lucky enough to get myself Taurus and Marichka. So if you're playing against somebody who has, for example, a Rhodos and a Sun Wukong is something I see quite a bit, and then I bring UDK, they're obviously going to be like, oh, okay, you know, easy ban pick. And then I throw in a Taurus and Marichka, and now it's like, do you want to break up the duo, or do you want to have your nukers just hitting into my Ultimate Death Knight, who's going to be in Stone Skin for 2 turns and making your nukers absolutely useless, right? And then you compare that with even something a little bit more dirty, like a Ramantu, or some other champions we'll get to later, right? And when you start combining strategy with ban bait, you can progress very far, because this guide is going to be more so targeted towards arena players, obviously, because you're not going to be seeing Wukong in places in PvE, for example. He's not really one of the champions that get placed there. So I would imagine people that are watching this are probably struggling with beating him in live arena, and they're just wanting some strats. They might be struggling with beating him or defending against him in tag arena, and these strats are going to be applicable basically anywhere. I'm just going to take a quick moment to pause here, and I just want to say the first legendary I got, so I was opening for the 1+1 event here, and I got 2, so I got a dupe Ignatius, which was kind of annoying, so I now have 2 of him, and then I got my first ever legendary from the Sylvan Watchers, which is Lady of Urith, and I'm not going to lie, based on her kit, I'm actually kind of tempted to build her. I think I could get some use out of her as a shield champion, because she has very good base stats for being a tank. Her reviews are just absolutely terrible, though, but I think people might be getting a little bit too harsh on her. Like placing a shield buff on somebody else and healing them and all that sort of good stuff. Let me know what you guys think. Have you built her? Have you seen people using her? Have you gone against her anywhere? Has she been annoying? Has she helped you? I'm very curious. There's only 400 reviews on her so far. Hopefully somebody watching this video will have her and have some experience with her, but let's get back to the next way to beat this annoying champion. So the next thing you can do here is you can use somebody like and I don't think he's in this faction, a Basa. I don't know which faction he's in specifically. Is he a demon spawn? He is not. Let's go here. I do have him ready to pull for when that comes up. Basa, he's a lizardman. So he has this passive that whenever an enemy is revived, he has a 100% chance of placing a stun debuff, and it cannot be resisted or blocked. So the only thing you have to be careful is obviously if your Wukong, the enemy's Wukong has polymorph on it, which they're highly unlikely to run. But something like this is going to be fantastic because anytime that Wukong revives himself, as long as Basa's had a turn in between, he's going to get stunned. And then the thing with stun too is it doesn't refresh your skill cooldown. So if you pair something like a Basa with some of the other champions that we'll talk about here, probably in the next point, you can actually basically just lock out the UDK, and then once he comes back and he's stunned, he's actually not going to be refreshing his skills, so he's basically still locked out for even longer than you'd expect. So a very, very strong way to counter him. That being said, though, Basa, a lot of people don't have him because he takes a long time in Doom Tower hard to beat. He does have very decent stats, though. And he is bringing, you know, some utility. He's got a strengthen and a continuous heal and a shield and blah, blah, blah. But not many people are running him, especially in an arena setting. So it's kind of up to you if you'd find any use out of him or not. And it's probably not worth building him just to be a Wukong counter, I wouldn't say. The next way that we're going to talk about beating Wukong is going to be with Lockout. So if we take a look at somebody like a Basher here on his A2, this is the free-to-play version of somebody like a Warlord. Attacks all enemies, increasing the cooldown of all the target skills by 2 turns. We come over to the Orcs. We have somebody like, of course, Warlord, which I wish I had, where he is attacking all enemy and he's putting them all on cooldown. Basically, just Lockout like this is going to be a really, really good way to deal with Wukong. And once you combine this strategy, especially with something like the UDK strategy, so your opponent has to choose if they want their skills locked out or if they want to go into UDK. And obviously, we only get one ban currently in Live Arena, so they're going to have to choose between, you know, which champion is going to do less damage to their team, essentially. And I would say in 99% of cases, unless you're a freak like me, you know, you're going to ban the Lockout. Personally, I don't ban the Lockouts. I have ways to deal with them, which I'm probably going to be making a video coming up here soon because there's definitely some good strats around that as well. But a Lockout champion is a very strong way to beat Wukong as well. So again, we have somebody like a Basher as a free-to-play option. We actually have in the Barbarians here too, we have a, is it Alika that does it? It is. So Alika does the same thing as Basher. She's not Void, though, so she can weak hit. We have somebody like a Yumiko who also does it, another champion I definitely want to get. And then, of course, the Warlord there are the notable champions that do the Lockouts. Hopefully this helps you guys. If you guys have any other strategies or anything like that for beating Wukong, definitely make sure to leave them down below, and it'll help me out as well as helping other people. I might make a follow-up to this at some point, just depending on if he's still getting picked, or if he's nerfed, or if there's new champions that come out that counter him and whatnot. I'll see you guys in the next video.